give everyone a second to get settled and logged in here. I have a sip of my coffee. It looks like 1:31, so I think we'll get going. Yes, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Clint Fraser. I'm the CEO of the Northern BC Tourism Association up here in Prince George, and I'd like to welcome you to the next in our series of webinars through the BC Tourism Resiliency Program today. But before we start, I'd like to acknowledge today that I'm speaking from the traditional unceded territory of the Lheidli T'enneh people here in Prince George, and I'd also like to acknowledge that I'm joined by Amber, Alex, Christina, and Jennifer from our team who are assisting in delivering the webinar today. I think most of us, we were just talking about it, but I think most of us are getting to the point where we're experts with Zoom. So probably shouldn't have to do a lot of the housekeeping, but certainly as with all of the other ones that you're participating in, the questions can be either applied through the chat function down there or just hit that Q&A button. And these lovely people will be helping to moderate some of that question and answer period towards the end of the webinar today. Of course, the webinar today will be recorded and put up on the website for future use. So if for some reason you have to drop off or would like to revisit something, you can do so by visiting tourismresiliency.ca. You'll be able to find the recorded version of the webinar. We certainly appreciate you taking the time to participate in today's webinar, which is being delivered through the BC Tourism Resiliency Network, which I think most of you are familiar with, but I'll describe it here for a second. It's a partnership between the regional destination management organizations across the province. And through this program and network, we're working to support the survival and long-term resiliency of tourism businesses in British Columbia affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. If you'd like to learn more about the many different supports being provided through the program, I invite you to visit, as I mentioned earlier, the tourismresiliency.ca website. That's your go-to resource. I'd also like to acknowledge that the BC Tourism Resiliency Program doesn't work without funding, and it is funded in partnership with the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture, Island Coastal Economic Trust, and Western Economic Diversification. So we certainly are very thankful for their support in delivering the program and certainly the webinar today. Today's webinar topic, let's jump to it. Tourism leader resilience during crisis. And it is obviously a very timely topic considering, at this moment, all tourism leaders are facing the same crisis. As we approach, the shoulder season in tourism, many businesses are approaching what we would sort of call the moment of truth. As a leader, at these times, you're being pushed to your personal and professional limits. And in these moments, you need the support and training to help you make the best possible decisions for your tourism-based business. This webinar will cover timeless leadership principles that will inspire, train, and help tourism business leaders increase focus and effectiveness. And of course, I'd like to introduce to you today today's presenter, Steve Osmond. Steve is an international business coach from Rhapsody Strategies. He's been developing leaders and coaching businesses for over 25 years now. Well, it's a long time, and has delivered over 10,000 hours of inspiring, humorous, and hard-hitting content to people of all ages and from every walk of life. So I definitely think we're in good hands today, and I would like to turn it over and welcome Steve.
Thank you so much for having me here today. I have been amped all morning about this moment when we're going to share this hour together. And it's only an hour, and there's a lot of incredible things jammed in here. I took about 17 things out of the presentation because we didn't have time. So I tried to choose the very best things to help you in this challenging season that we're all going through. I wanted to start with this kind of in-your-face quote that makes a bold statement. It's this, that COVID-19 pandemic is simultaneously the great business brake pedal and the great business accelerator. As I've been coaching leaders and businesses across Canada and in different parts of the world, people are experiencing either a slam on the brake experience where things are really difficult, really challenging. People don't know if they're going to make it through the next quarter or through the next month or even the next week. And it's a real challenging time to generate positive momentum. But also there are so many industries and businesses that COVID has caused an acceleration. It's actually busier. There's a surge of business. So I'm hoping today that our time together will help you, whether you're experiencing a braking or an acceleration, that the principles that we're going to look at, the ideas we're going to explore together will help you no matter what situation that you find yourself in. I want to, first of all, clarify what our goals are today. I want to get you in the zone so we can maximize this. So the first thing we want to do is reconnect you to some leadership mindsets that will steady you and help you focus. Man, it's so hard to make decisions when you're worried or fearful or grieving or disappointed. So we're gonna dive into some of that mindset stuff that's so helpful. We're also going to help you reflect on the most important pivoting principle. And I don't know if you're tired of the word pivot yet, but I'm sick of it. Pivot this, pivot that. But we're going to focus on that and define that a little bit better. And then finally, and this is where I'd like for you to get ready with pen, paper, or use your phone. We want to begin a 30-day action plan for a successful pivot. So as I'm talking, write down, I need to do this. I need to think about that. I need to change this. I need to stop doing that. I need to start doing that. Start to build some goals and priorities. And at the end of our time together today, we'll revisit and help you get focused on building that plan so that you can actually apply what you're learning today. All right, here we go. First of all, I want to talk about pivoting. I just mentioned, I'm tired of hearing the word. I just got a message on my Facebook Messenger today. Are you tired of pivoting yet? And I'm pivoting, you're pivoting, they're pivoting, we're pivoting, and half the time we're not even sure what that means. So I'd like to just introduce this idea of pivoting, first of all, with this pivot continuum. And if you look on one end, you have a very small, almost minuscule or adjustment in this persevere. So some of you right now, you're in the persevere mode. You just need to double down on what you're doing. You need to keep moving forward. You need to build systems and strategies so that you can grow. So there are some changes and adjustments that you need to make, but they're more tweaks or minor adjustments. There's a chance that if you're in that category, you may not even be on this call because things may be going well for you and you just need to keep going. On the other end is the other extreme of the continuum, which is pull the plug. This is the radical end. There's no way forward. This is it. We don't want to chase a bad idea or chase bad money. And this is the end. We need to get out of this business and get into another business. A great example of this are people who have shifted their factory from one product and now they're producing PPE products or masks or glass partitions for protection. They completely stopped doing one thing and are doing another. So you might be on either one of extremes of that continuum, but most of us are in the middle. where we're making significant changes and adjustments, but we're not quite pulling the plug on everything. We're trying to find the best way forward. So wherever you are on this continuum, whether you're persevering with your idea, whether you're pulling the plug and doing everything different, or you just need to adjust your sails so that you can move forward and accelerate, these next few thoughts are going to be helpful for you. So first of all, getting our mind pivot ready. Getting your mind pivot ready. It's awfully hard to be strategic. It's awfully hard to find new paths and new opportunities when our minds are blurred and worried and flurried with all kinds of challenges and fears and all kinds of things. So everything is created twice. Everything's created twice. First in our mind, and then we execute it. So if our minds are confused and worried, disappointed, angry, then very, very often that's what we produce. We produce, our execution is confused. Our execution is unclear. We're going around in circles. We're sending a confusing message to our team, to our market. So we want to really get our mind pivot ready. I got a couple of really amazing things I'm really excited to share with you. So if you're maybe distracted by your phone, just dig in here for a couple of minutes. Even if you checked out a little bit later, the real good stuff's coming here to get your mind focused on what matters most. Watch this. All right. This is what leadership is supposed to be like, right? Oh, there's a global crisis. There's a pandemic, and I'm going to be a superstar. I'm going to lead my organization through it. But what a lot of us, most of us are feeling more like this is, I feel overwhelmed. I feel afraid. I feel like I'm not sure what I can do or what I should do. And most of us are experiencing what I like to call COVID-19 plus. We've got the pandemic that's spiking and surging, and first wave and second wave and stage 3 and stage 1 and shutdowns and lockdowns. We've got all the COVID factors that are just storming all around us. But most of us also have, on top of COVID, we have something else going on. It's COVID plus. And it might be a relational problem or an addiction problem, or it might be something like the fear of what's going to happen to the business, or it might be grief or disappointment. Could be so many things that you may be experiencing. So maybe if you just want to take a minute and maybe write down what your plus is. What are you actually worried about? What's the other thing that COVID has generated? One of my clients right now is from Lebanon. And a few weeks ago, we were on a coaching session together. And that was the week when the massive explosion took place in Beirut in Lebanon. And that was his plus. He's trying to build his business. He's trying to hire the right people. He's trying to find new customers, and his mind is being bombarded with COVID news and Lebanon news and things that are happening. And so I'd like for you to just write down. Sometimes it's good just to get it out of your head, get it down on paper. Is it grief? Is it fear? Is it a missed opportunity? Is it disappointment? Whatever it is, what we want to do is we want to quiet those voices that are causing your mind to be confused and worried and afraid. And there's some tools that we can use to do that. But first, I want to convince you that it's worth taking the time to quiet your mind, get focused, and get your mind in a pivot mindset. Blaise Pascal, this guy was a genius. He changed the world with his innovation. And look what he said. I don't know, is this statement too broad? Is it, I don't know, but it's powerful. Look at it. All of humanity's problems stem from man or mankind's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. Wow. All of humanity's problems stem from man's ability to sit quietly in a room alone. Busyness is the enemy of your business. Busyness hurry, rush, always running, always going. And if we're able to quiet our mind, think clearly, find clarity, get focused, then we can find the way forward for pivoting our business. I want you to remember that quote as we move forward. So I want to introduce to you this practice. It's a practice. The client that I told you about a few minutes ago, Mark, who has the COVID issues happening in Lebanon, we walked through this together about 2 or 3 weeks ago to help him get focused. And this is a powerful tool. And Mark, my client, he does this every morning before he starts his day. And this was created by Stephen Covey, the author of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And it's called the circle of control versus the circle of concern. And the big idea is that this will help us to become proactive instead of reactive. Proactive instead of reactive. So in the circle, there are things that, in our lives, there are things that we can control. We can manage, we can affect, we can touch those things, we can adjust those things, we can control those things. And then there are this other world that is we're concerned about it, we're worried about it. What's Trudeau doing? What's happening in the UK? What's happening in Quebec? What's happening with the vaccine? What's happening in Washington? What's happening with the weather? And what's happening with the pandemic? And all of these things we're concerned about, but we have no control over them. And Covey, in his book, brilliantly says, if we focus on our circle of concern, the result will be just a reactive approach to life, approach to thinking, and approach to action, which will be scattered and confused. But if we focus on what we can control, then we become proactive. We become laser focused. We keep our minds on the right things that we really can control and manage, and then when we start focusing on those things, then we begin to broaden our circle of influence and grow our business and grow our team, because now we're focused on the right thing. Here's an example of what that might look like. And again, I mentioned Mark, my client, does this every morning before he begins his day. He actually writes down on a whiteboard. He puts 2 circles and he says, what is my circle of concern and what is my circle of control? And he writes all of the things down: the economy, the news, political views, natural disasters, pandemics, wars, the weather, what people think of me, all of these things. He writes them all down. And then he also writes down in another circle all of the things that he can control: his attitude, the business he starts, what he reads, what skills he's going to learn, what he's going to buy, where he's going to travel, what he's going to think about. And then after he's done these 2 lists, he makes sure that he spends the majority of the time thinking and focusing on the things that he can control. And the shift in your mindset will be massive. I asked Mark, this client I'm referring to, maybe one day you'll meet him, but I asked Mark, I said, what percentage of your week or your day are you spending thinking about the things that are in your circle of concern? The pandemic, Trudeau, Lebanon, whatever that is. And he was sheepish at first, and I said, no, come on, be honest. We're in this together. And he said, Steve, some days I spend 85% of my day on things I can't control: the news, social media, checking out what's happening in different parts of the world, being distracted. And the result of that is, of course, anybody who spends only 15% of their time on what matters most, there will be no traction and no forward movement. So as Mark and I have been working on this, we worked on it for the first week. He said, I went from 85% distracted to 65% distracted. And then the next week from 65 to 45. And the goal is to get them to 25% distracted and 75% focused, because that's a powerful principle. I call it the 75% rule. I love this, the 75% rule. Look at this. If you can win 75% of your day, you've won the day. If you can win 75% of your week, you've won the week. If you can win 75% of your month, you've won the month. And if you can win, guess what's coming next? And if you can win 75% of your year, you will win the year. Now, there's other tools, there's other ideas that we can use to help us get focused, help us pay attention to what matters most. But I really want to encourage you to check out that circle of concern, circle of control model. And you can just Google that, Stephen Covey's Circle of Control. There's some websites that have free downloads with worksheets that you could do that with yourself or with your team, with your spouse, and really begin to shift your mind from the things that you can't control to the things that you can control. So here, now we're going to go through a couple of questions here. And remember earlier, we talked about building a 30-day action plan. All right. So I'm going to put, I think, 3 or maybe 4 questions up on the screen. And I want you to just answer them honestly. Write some things down to answer it. And we're going to use some of the things that you write down to help populate your 30-day action plan. So the first one is this one. This is kind of it's an uncomfortable question. I don't really like it, but it's powerful, and I can relate to this. And here it is. How are you sabotaging your own efforts? How are you sabotaging your own efforts? I'll give you mine. How I sabotage myself, because I'm in the same boat as you. I'm a business owner. I'm a coach. I'm finding clients. I'm serving clients. I'm facing the challenges of all the lockdown. And so for me, I need to have a really good Sunday night. Like, I need to have a really clear, restful, focused Sunday night. I just need to be in the zone. I'm already getting ready for Monday, so that when Monday hits, it's really the beginning of my work week is Sunday evening. Well, last Sunday evening, do you know what I did? I went out in the afternoon and bought myself an amazing bottle of brandy. And I'm not going to tell you how much I drank out of that brandy, but I drank too much, and I sabotaged my week with that bad decision. And I basically lost the Monday morning. I was tired. I was bleary-eyed. So it could be all kinds of things. It could be substance. It could be procrastination. It could be worry, fear. But I'd like for you to just take a minute and jot down how you might be sabotaging your own efforts. The next one is this. What will you stop doing? What do you need to stop doing? What habits can you change or adjust that will move the needle or move the ball down the field so that you'll be able to be more focused, finding solutions, finding a way forward? What do you need to stop doing? What should you stop doing? I know we don't like to use that phrase should, because then someone said, well, you're shooting all over yourself. You should do this, you should do that. So maybe a better way is what do you really need to stop doing? What's getting in the way of your success right now? Not in the circle of your concern, the pandemic or the government, but within your circle of control. What can you stop doing? I think I got a couple more questions here. What new scripts will you embrace? You know, there's all kinds of words and language and phrases that we tell ourselves that defeat us and defeat our minds. Things like, I can't do it. This is too hard. I can't achieve. I'm not strong enough. The problems are too great. It's her fault. It's his fault. I'm so angry. I can't even do anything right now. There's all kinds of negative scripts that begin to control our thinking and limit our thinking. We call them limiting mindset. And so what are some new scripts that you could embrace? about who you are, about the possibilities. For example, the very first slide was COVID-19 is both the great brake pedal and the great accelerator. What if you just shifted your mind and said, you know what? COVID-19 is going to be an accelerator for me. All I've been doing is seeing the limitations and the blockages and the reasons why things won't work. But I've decided that I'm going to accelerate, and this is going to be a season of opportunity for me, and begin to shift your mind and begin to embrace that script that your mind rehearses over and over and over again. All right, one more. What will you start doing? Wow. We are the sum of our habits. What we do over and over again produces who we are. So what are some new habits that you could start? I've talked about Mark so much, maybe you feel like you're getting to know him, but Mark's new habit was circle of concern and circle of control. Every morning before work begins, just to get him in the work zone. Maybe it's go to bed earlier. Maybe it's any number of things. But what new habits will you embrace? All right. So now we've talked a lot about mindset. So now we're going to talk about the business itself. So we're switching now from mindset. Now your organization. 2 keys to a successful business pivot. So I still want you to be thinking about your action plan. You've been given a tool for being able to focus your mind, the circle of control, circle of concern. Now let's think about your business itself. So there's 2 keys to a successful business pivot. Again, I want to remind you, we looked at this a little bit earlier. There is this pivot continuum. You just may need to have the resources that you need, the mentor you need, or the coach that you need, or the tools that you need, so that you can persevere and keep going and keep growing. Maybe you just need some encouragement. Don't give up, but keep going. Someone else, you might be at the other end where you realize the business plan just doesn't work. Now I'm just chasing bad money. There's this fallacy called the sunken cost fallacy. I was on the playground with my son and my grandson. My son is Jared. My grandson is Jacob. We were hanging out at the playground, and my son Jared, he said, "Dad, have you ever heard of the sunken cost fallacy?" And I thought, I said, "Yeah, I've heard of it, but it's been a long time. Tell me what it is." And he said, "Well, the sunken cost fallacy is when you've invested so much in something, you keep chasing what you've invested, and you spend even more. If you lost $100,000 in an investment, then you keep chasing that $100,000. You keep chasing what you've lost. Instead of saying, okay, that didn't work. I need to let that go. I let that cost go. And I need to shift my energy and begin to pursue something that actually works." And this is behavioral economics. And human beings, we do this. Sometimes it's something as simple as we buy too much food at the restaurant. We spend $25 on a meal and it's way too much food, but we say, you know what? I spent all that money. I'm going to eat the whole thing. I'm going to keep eating even though I don't need it, because we feel like we need to get our money back. And in business, that can be deadly. That can be deadly. We start thinking, I've already invested $100,000. I can't give up. But sometimes that's when the pivot needs to happen. We need to take an honest look at our business plan, an honest look at the numbers, and say, you know what? It's time to do a massive pivot. It's time to sell or close or totally shift our business plan and do something completely different. Again, for many of us, it's somewhere in the middle. How do we move our business? How do we become better in the industry that we're doing? What new products and services can we offer? What new marketing approaches can we take? And we need to make those adjustments. So remember that you're somewhere on this continuum when it comes to your business resiliency and your pivot strategy. All right, let's take a look at that's something that I think is so important. So the first thing that I'd like for you to do as a business owner, as a leader, is this, is broaden and broadcast your mission. What does that mean? Broaden and broadcast your mission. So this is where you would ask yourself the question, what business am I really in? What business am I really in? Because sometimes we think that the business that we're in is the products and the services that we offer. But really, it's more than that. It's really about what value do we add? What value, what resources do we have that adds value to the world? Let me give you an example. One of my clients, her name is Rebecca, does social media, digital strategy for mostly hospitality-based industries, restaurants, hotels, sightseeing tours, those kinds of things. So you can imagine, you know what that's like when all of a sudden the whole landscape changes in the hospitality world. And so we were in a session together and she says, I've lost this client and this client has stopped and this client hasn't paid me. And I feel like quitting. And I said, well, quitting might be the option. It might be time to pull the plug. But maybe there's a pivot we can make here. And what might that pivot be? And so we began to explore it. It was, I don't know if it'll excite you, but it was an exciting conversation for us. And I asked her the question, what are you actually really, what business are you in? She's like, I promote restaurants and I promote hotels. I said, no. What actual value are you in? What's your mission? And you've probably heard this phrase, what's the why? What's the why? Why are you in business? And she thought about it and we tried a few things. And then all of a sudden the light bulb came on and Rebecca said, you know what? I'm in the business of communication, of clearly communicating. And when we stripped everything down, that's what we came up with, that she was in the business of communication. So then I asked this simple question, do we still need communication today? And the answer was obvious. Well, of course. And it was a profound moment that now more than ever, our world needs clarity and effectiveness in communication. So she went back to her mission and said, okay, my mission is not digital strategy for hospitality, because it's very narrow and you can only do so much in your business plan with a narrow mission. But when you broaden your mission and you say, okay, my mission is actually effective and clear communication, and that helped her shift her mindset and her focus to say, okay, who then needs my services? Where does my business make sense now? There's been a massive change. Where does my business make sense now? Where does my mission make sense now? And then the next step, once you broaden your mission, then begin to broadcast. Tell your team, tell your vendors, tell your clients, your prospects, your past clients, your present clients, that this is our mission. This is why we exist. This is our why. Now, this may sound like theory, and because you're all from different regions and different businesses, different challenges, I'm not sure if you're kind of cynical of this, but let me encourage you just to go through the exercise of broadening your mission and ask the question, what makes sense for my business, or what makes sense for my mission now? What business are you really in? Real quickly, I want you to look at this as well. Not just broaden and broadcast your mission, but also shorten and sharpen the vision. Shorten and sharpen the vision. So here's what we're learning as business coaches across Canada, as we're coaching our clients, that the era of a 10-year, 5-year, 3-year, 1-year plan, the window is lessening on that kind of thinking. I think it's still possible to guess and plan, but we don't know what's going to happen in the next 3, 6, 12 months. So this is where we shorten our vision. We start making 90-day plans, and then we make another 90-day plan, and then another 90-day plan. We really shorten and get really short on it's almost like sprints instead of marathons. Where do we want to be by Christmas? What do we want to have in place by Christmas? And get really focused when you work on the business. But then also sharpen the vision. Sharpen the vision. Make it really specific. Once you broaden the mission, and then you find out, oh, there's actually opportunities out there. Oh, I never saw those opportunities before because I had a narrow mission, but now I can see those opportunities, and I'm going to make my vision really specific to nail those opportunities. When it comes to vision, specific is terrific. Specific is terrific. Focus your attention, focus your vision, focus your goals really specifically on the opportunities that are there. We don't want to be gambling. We don't want to be betting the farm. We want to be really wise, really good stewards, and focus our vision on what really makes sense. In Jim Collins' book, From Good to Great, he talks about the concept of firing bullets, not cannonballs. And I don't have a lot of time to unpack it, but essentially it's this. It's when you're pivoting, when you're trying a new business idea, a new vision, a new market, a new approach, don't fire cannonballs, fire bullets. Cannonballs means you bet the farm. You know what? We're changing everything. We're tearing it all down, and we're going to put everything over here. And he says in his book, don't do that. It's too risky. Don't fire cannonballs, but instead try firing bullets, meaning take small investments, try that market, try that idea, try that approach. And if it succeeds, then start firing more of your energy and your time and your resources and adjust it as you go. And so you really sharpen your vision. And again, that's something to Google if you want to read more on that. Bullets, not cannonballs. And I think that would be really helpful for you. And then when this is the other part is use the SWOT analysis to operationalize broadening your mission and sharpening and shortening your vision. So you broaden your mission, you sharpen your vision, but then you use SWOT, the SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Again, it's a common tool that you can find on the internet. Use that template or that matrix and use that to really focus your thinking so that you can actually find the opportunities that make the most sense for you. And that SWOT analysis is again, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And there's all kinds of resources that will help you walk through that as you broaden your mission. What opportunities, and then how do those opportunities match my strengths? What weaknesses might prevent us from succeeding? What opportunities are out there, and what threats are against us? A really, really strong, it's an old, tried, tested, and true resource that will really serve you well if you see that you need to be pivoting in your business. Well, I've talked a long time. I'm going to take a break and sip my tea, and I'm going to ask Christina, how are we doing with our questions and answers? I know some people probably put some things in the chat. They can actually enter them in now if they haven't already. Are there any questions that I could answer today?
I don't see any yet, but if you guys can throw some of those questions in the chat, and also if you have any questions on the Tourism Resiliency Program, we do have your program advisors, Jennifer and Alex, on the line too. So whether it's related to all the fabulous things that Steve's been talking about, or to these kind of more specific as well. Oh, I have one. So someone is asking, how do you best prioritize your mindset over action, especially when things are stressful and especially as things are shifting?
Yeah, if I'm not answering your question, just right back into the chat. But what comes to my mind first is the philosophy of ready, fire, aim, or fire, aim, ready, which should be you get yourself ready, aim, fire. But a lot of people are fire, ready, aim. So they just start going. They just wake up in the morning and they work. As coaches, we call that people who are working in the business, just putting out fires, answering phone calls, answering emails, but they're not working on the business, thinking, where are we going to be 6 months from now? Where are we going to be 3 months from now? What are the most important issues for me to be focusing on? And again, that circle of concern, circle of control exercise is a great way to help you focus on what matters most. But I think you kind of answered it in the question. Plan first, act second. I don't know about you, but something in the human animal says just act, just start doing things. Get up, start doing things. And whether that's writing lists or writing out a strategy or working with a coach to find out what direction you should take, plan first, act second.
I love that, Steve. I have another one here that says, how do I ensure my team or my staff are on the same page as we pivot? And then kind of second part, how do you create buy-in? Because things, especially right now, are always changing.
Yeah, powerful question. Okay, so I have one of my favorite resources. We can't cover it today, but if you get the book, 5 Dysfunctions of a Team by Patrick Lencioni. Oh my God, it is good. It's good stuff. And buy-in, there's this model of how do we get our team working together for results. And this idea of buy-in is step 3 on this sort of staged strategy, phased in strategy of getting to really good results. And underneath buy-in is conflict and trust. So if you have really good trust, really productive, healthy conflict, it will produce good buy-in, and that buy-in will result in accountability, and accountability will produce results. I can't unpack it now, but listen, Lencioni, he sold a couple of million books with that concept, and I would highly recommend it. What was the first part of that question again, Christina? Just
how do I ensure that the team is on the same page in terms of pivoting?
Right. Communicate. I was reading a book the other day that said you can never communicate too much. And just to circle back to that idea about broadening your mission and then broadcasting your mission. And your team is key for understanding the pivot that's taking place. Depending on your team members, depending on where they are in the organization, you may want to include them in the process. For example, you may want to include them in this journey that you're on of pivoting, of the circle of concern, the circle of control. You may want to include them in the inner thoughts that you're having as a leader so that they know what you're thinking. But that's not easy. It's tough work. Someone asked me, Steve, how long does it take to build a good team? And I said, that's not even there's no answer to that question. You're always working on your team. You're always trying to communicate and help them understand and buy in.
So true. Another one here, I love this one. It reminds me of something you once told me, Steve, but how do I know if I've taken on too much? And again, a two-parter, how do you test the waters, especially when it seems like there is no time to test during a crisis?
Yeah, so I think there you're referring to the second part anyway. And Christina, remind me what the first part of the question was. But the second part there is this idea of testing the waters, of firing bullets and not cannonballs. It really starts with an attitude that says, I'm not going to bet the farm on an idea. So it starts with this, we set a boundary, and then we just do the hard work of doing 2 things simultaneously. And that's not easy. But when we're pivoting, very rarely do we have the luxury of saying, I'm just going to shut that down and start this. Usually there's this time where we're doing both for a while so that we can maintain income, maintain the business, and then we let one die and the other continues. So I'd love to have a more specific conversation about that. It's hard to say, not knowing the exact situation. But Christina, you mentioned that I had said something that before. Do you want to chime in on that with an idea in that regard?
Steve, something you've always told me is the analogy of building a car while you're still driving it on the highway. And that's something that I think about almost every day. Maybe you want to dive into that a little bit.
Yeah, thank you. I totally forgot about that. Thank you so much. Yeah, so my first car was a 1976 Gremlin. Can you imagine? A 1976 Gremlin. It was blue except for one orange door. The floorboards rotted out. You could see the ground moving underneath as you were driving. It was. They say it's the worst car ever made. Maybe that or the Pinto. I'm not sure. But can you imagine if that's what your business feels like right now? That you're driving a Gremlin, and you're feeling really vulnerable and fragile. So you say, okay, while I'm still driving, I need to turn my Gremlin into, well, we could say Cadillac, but how about just even a Civic? I need to go from a Gremlin to a Civic, and then maybe a Civic to a Cadillac or whatever nice cars, an Audi. And here's the way that we do that. First of all, that's incredibly difficult, but it can be done. It really is about the intention of the business owner to find time in their week or in their month or in the day to begin to build systems even as the business keeps moving. One of my favorite quotes is this, is that incremental change is better than ambitious failure. So don't just crash the car and get rid of it, but during that week, even when it's hectic and even when it's busy, in your planning time, in your circle of concern, circle of control time, begin to prioritize, okay, what can I do to improve my machine? The business is a machine. Let's see, if someone wants to do some more reading on this, because we don't have a lot of time, in Ray Dalio's book called Principles, Ray Dalio's book, Principles, the machine model, and you can just Google that too. I think if you just Google the machine model, Ray Dalio, you'll get some good stuff. But that you do some reading there to explore even more about how, while you're in the business, you take time, you pull back, and you work on the business. And as a coach, that's what I'm doing with clients all the time.
And Steve, the first part of that question was, how do I know if I've taken on too much?
Wow, what a great question. I mean, it's really different for everybody, but I think the concept, the idea that comes to my mind is the concept of redlining. You know, when you're in your car and the RPMs, I drive a Volkswagen Tiguan, a 6-speed, beauty car. It's not a Gremlin. And if I don't shift the gear at the right time, then my RPMs are going up into red. And it's okay for a few seconds, 10 seconds. But if I stay in the wrong gear and I'm redlining for too long, I'm going to wreck that. I'm going to wreck that car. And so that might be your business. It might be your business is redlining. Or it might be you. You're the machine. You're the product, and you might be finding you're revving too hard. And again, there's no real easy answer to that, except it's time to shift gears, and whatever that means for you personally or for your business. And maybe even write that question down. What does it mean for me to shift gears? What does it mean for my business to shift gears? How can I get into the right gear so my needle is back in the right position? Many times, the answer to that question of shifting gears, and Christina, I know we've had this conversation, the answer to that question is found in building systems or processes in the business so that the pressure or the stress is on the system and not on the business owner. So that means all of the genius, all of the ideas, all of the skills that you have as the owner, creating a system or a process where that's duplicated. And there's some great, just to do some reading on business systems, processes. But that's the real key, is getting, listen, all of the hamburger burdens of the world aren't on Ronald McDonald. That's been shifted. All of those responsibilities has been shifted into this fantastic system of business that really carries the weight of the demand of the customer. I even as I'm answering that question, my emotion is that's too short of an answer, probably for the depth of experiencing that you're having. But again, this resiliency program that we're going to talk about in a few moments is a great way for you to get support and help around questions like that.
Steve, this question I feel like is similar to the ones we've been answering, but maybe gives you permission to go even more in depth. The question is around, how do you prioritize your list when everything feels it needs to be addressed urgently and has the same level of importance?
Right. I use a number system. I just say, well, what matters most? Say there's 6 things in the day. And then I'll just say, out of 10, let's give a score to each one. And sometimes one is 10 out of 10 and the other one is 9.8. But at least it helps me move out of the black and white, and gives me a more nuanced approach to my decisions about prioritizing. But there's another great tool by Covey, and I think, because I'm pulling it from my memory, I might say it wrong, but it's the urgency important quadrant. Yeah, that's it. That's what it is. There's these 4 quadrants. There's an actual template that you can actually put everything from your list into. Again, Google's our best friend on this call, but just to do Stephen Covey, important versus urgent. And in these 4 quadrants, you can place those tasks, and he clearly defines what those tasks are, what those priorities are in terms of what's most important, what's urgent. And that'll help you populate that list of things to do. Christina, I think you and we also talked about one other way that we prioritize lists is that we use our essential or core values to help prioritize our list. For example, in a crisis, it's very possible to forget about one's own personal health, or to forget about the family or the children, or forget about, it's just very possible to get so focused on everything that we forget the most important thing. Listen, we're going to get through this. It may not be the same. Our businesses may be different, but we're going to get through this. And we have to remember that what's most important are the people that we love and care about, keeping ourselves healthy, keeping ourselves from harm, and making sure that we prioritize that to the very top. But again, if you're looking for something with a little bit more substance and a process that you can walk through, Stephen Covey's urgent versus important matrix.
Steve, there's one more here that I think is actually a nice segue as well, but it's just around, how can a business coach help me? And I might jump in for you for a minute, but something that resonated with me early on was this notion that, you know, Serena Williams has a coach, and Tiger Woods has a coach, and all these prolific athletes have a coach. And so what made it think that, you know, a business owner doesn't need a coach too? And that got me thinking. But in kind of your terms, in your world, when should someone kind of know that they need a business coach to help, whether it's through a pivot or through a crisis like COVID? What's your take there?
Wow. Do you know who really benefits from a coach? Are winners who seem to be losing. They've got great ideas, great plans, great products, but just can't. It's like somebody, like we just had the Stanley Cup last night. I think it was last night. It's like somebody who's scoring 20 goals a year, but they know they could score 30. They know they could really get into another level of success. And so what does that person do? They coach up. They get a conditioning coach, a skating coach, a strength coach, a mindset coach, a nutritional coach. And it's that it's that 1% or 2% adjustment that takes them from a 20 goal score to a 30 goal score. A lot of people think, I don't need a coach, I'm not a loser. Only losers need coaches. Well, you just mentioned it. The best athletes in the world, the best business owners in the world, all have a coach who they work with. It's another set of eyes. It's catalytic feedback. It's strategizing with somebody who cares about you and your business. It's learning new ideas and new tools that could push you over the edge into success. And by the way, I'm a coach and I have a coach. And I know if I want to be a coach that just plays around, then I'll just do it myself, kind of a hobby. But if I want to be an international cutting edge coach, then I need someone else to be accountable to. I need someone else to bounce ideas off so I can take my game to the next level. I see we have 4 minutes. Should we wrap her up here, Christina?
I think so. I mean, everyone, if there's any other questions to trickle in, go ahead. But I think Steve jumped to your final slide, and if there's anything else, I'll bug you at the end.
Okay, let me get back into my slideshow here. So let's wrap it up with this idea. So the real work of leaders is coming up with a good plan. A couple of people have already asked about what should I do? What should I focus on? How much is too much? And this is where I think really good planning comes into place. So we've provided a resource for you. I'm just putting it up on the screen so it's familiar, that you can download this and walk through your priorities, your goals, set your today's date, a target date. It's really a planning resource. There may be different ones that you use, but this is one that's available for you. And then real quick, next steps. I was so impressed with the association, the Tourism Association, when they said, we have resources and we want people in tourism in BC to sign up because we're going to be able to get them to experts. We're going to be able to get them the help that they need. And so I really encourage you to get the support you need and register for the TRP program. Also, complete your 30-day action plan. Don't find someone, get accountable, get an action plan in place. It doesn't need to be perfect. In fact, no plan ever survives first contact with the market. You know, we do a plan, we try it, we fire a bullet, not a cannonball. We try it, then we bring it back and we adjust it. But let's get started. Let's do some really great planning. And then finally, in terms of action, go to this website, tourismresiliency.ca. There's all kinds of resources there, all kinds of things about next steps. That's where you can find that action plan template and more information about the things that are coming up. I want to close with this. This is the world that we're living in right now. It's more than just organizational tactics, strategies, cold-hearted business stuff. This is right now. We're in a battle. We're in something that is so intense, so emotional. It's such a huge crisis, and we need each other, and we need to support each other and believe in each other and fight for each other. And I want to conclude with this quote that I think is really beautiful by Elizabeth Edwards. And this sort of sums up some of our ideas around resiliency with our mindset or with our business plan. Look at this. This is beautiful. She stood in the storm, and when the wind did not blow her way, she adjusted her sails. She stood in the storm, and when the wind did not blow her way, she adjusted her sails. And that's really the message from our webinar today. Whether we're adjusting our sails with our mindset or adjusting our sails with our mission and vision, let's keep believing and keep moving forward. Let's put our sails up. Let's catch some wind, and let's accelerate, and let's move forward. On behalf of the entire team, I just want to say thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. We are cheering for you. You're not alone. Thank you.
Steve, thank you so much. And thank you to everyone for joining the team today. A reminder to go on to the tourismresiliency.ca website to sign up. And Steve's presentation will be up on that website as well. So keep your eyes out. And Steve, you can peek at the chat, but lots of thank yous. And this clearly resonated. So thanks so much for your time today.
You're welcome.